wide brush because I need to get some water down on the surface a little bit. And it's going to start buckling my page, but that's quite all right. I just want to get enough to cover the areas that I'm going to drop in this color on. I'm going to grab some of my light blue here and just kind of come in and see how that just jets out there and then runs immediately down the page, which is fine. There we go. You get it thin, it acts a lot like watercolor, which is really great because you get these little jetties of things going on. And I'm going to come in and add a little bit of my lighter violet here to go with it, and I'll let these. That's kind of the fun part. I'm going to go a little bit more heavy purple down here. And you get these just like watercolor. You get these wonderful little splashes working their way in. Oh, I forgot that plant right there. Well, he's going to be purple. There we go. And it runs pretty far. That's perfectly all right. And let that do its thing for a little bit. And you see with the Payne's gray is a real nice, even though it's darker, it's not a black, and it works out really well with this. So we're going to make this work. Just thinking galaxy here. Working it in while the paint is still kind of wet, so I get this nice flowing bit. Got a little bit thicker than I wanted. There we go. Yeah, I completely lost its little moon. That's life. And again, welcome everybody to the stream tonight. Thank you for dropping by. I'm just getting started here on the painting part of this ship, and just throwing down some color now. We're just kind of want to get as much of this filled in on the background as I can here. I am. Right, so I might actually grab... Yeah, I'm going to grab a round brush, take a second, and refine up the edge of this just a little bit, because it actually is bugging me. And then this made it worse. Yikes. Tonight, it was just going straight in. Going for broke. So as long as we're at it. And I'm not really going to go too crazy with the detail on the planet here. This will be just enough to get an idea of where the lighter spot is and the darker spot. And give it a little bit of texture. And these are just meant to be fun paintings. Just the sort of thing to have fun with. I didn't really intend to do much with these other than just use them as our demos here. And I personally like having this kind of artwork around anyway. So, have fun with it. That was definitely a very Bob Ross thing to say, is have fun with it. Do stuff, especially right now, just do stuff that's actually kind of fun. Don't get too wigged out about how it looks. Just practice the techniques, and sometimes they're masterpieces and sometimes they're not. It's not really a big deal. You just kind of go with it. And I think a lot of people are a little afraid to pick up paint and go with it because you get tense. It's like, well, wait a second, it needs to be good. Well, it can be, and sometimes it can be just okay, but we can actually have some fun with it. And now, it takes practice, I'm not going to lie. Some of the stuff I'm doing here is just from having practiced it so much that I kind of have a sense for what works and what doesn't, but That's how you get there. And that's also why I like the Caseins a bit more. If I just had watercolor that I was working with, I wouldn't be able to come back in this quickly and do some of this detail. It's I'm working with paint that's a little thicker. I mean, you can with watercolor. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can't, but this gives me a little flexibility that I wouldn't otherwise have. Alrighty. And I'm just going to use it straight. I'm going on white paper, so I don't really need to worry too much about the opacity of it. This whole section across the middle is this. It's the engine. It's pushing this thing forward. So I want to have some fun with some nice yellows here. So I want to get some yellow in the background. If I get too close to what's on the page, I'm going to end up with green. So, and as with most paints, yellow is probably the least opaque. Even though Casein itself is opaque, yellow isn't. It's pretty lightweight. If I were painting over something else, just a touch of white would have helped make this really opaque. And I did get some purple streaks in there. That was inevitable. I'm not going to worry about it. I just wanted to get some. I want to cover this with some yellow for this section. So we're eventually going to go with some oranges, but I needed a nice yellow tone underneath the bottom there. A little bright. I'm being really tentative here. Probably more so than I need to be. There we go. I have plans for these sections though later. All right. Just kind of wanted to get a nice gradient. There we go. I'm picking up way too much of the red. A little more solid yellow back there. There we go. Muddied it up a little bit, but it is actually a little bit more of a and I'm just building an effect that I'll be able to use once I get the rest of the spaceship painted over it. And off camera, I just have a gigantic jug of water that I'm using here. Here we go. Alright, I'm not going to touch that anymore, otherwise I'm going to completely screw it up. Okay, there we go. On the major areas in here, some of these may or may not end up getting pulled in like this, but I had this really great engine all drawn in here, and it's gone. I can kind of see it, so I'm just going to get in some of the details. I'm going to pretend like this is what I intended to do, but I just want to be able to get the shapes in. And I'm just using a round brush here. It's actually not my favorite round brush. I think I used it one of the last times. It's an older one. Not the happy brush. But I also don't mind beating it up a little bit if I need to. Oop. Is that wet? Not too wet. Okay, cool. Dot this in down here. And I'm going to try to get this in over all the places where there is this light-colored spaceship hull here. And as you can see, against the white, it really shows up, which is exactly what we want. I don't want the white of the paper to define the spaceship. We're going to add our own white later. As I do this, I'm going to treat the brush like a pen and try to follow Follow contours and define some shapes. Although my color is definitely becoming more... There we go. This is kind of a rounded detail here. So I'm going to keep that. Drop this in under here. Really just trying to get the shadow zones as much as possible on this, although at the front there. There we go. It's okay if I paint over those. I will still be able to see the black just fine, which is great. I think I just want this whole thing to be bring a little bit more white to it on this side. Some water. Completely covered my stuff. Fantastic. There we go. Skilled he is at the fine art of illustration with Casein. Yes. Fantastic. It's quite okay. I just want to be able to get this white covered here. I did lighten it up a bit, so there's a slight, even though it's hard to see, there is a slight difference between the two. At least I can see it on here just fine. Alrighty. And there, we got a bit of a mess. We have an entire mess. My devilish plan all along. We're gonna push and pull this until we have a spacecraft. Yes. Alright, just getting caught up in listening to the music. My apologies. Completely lost track of time there for a second while I was working on this. I was trying to decide how I want to tackle some of these details. I'm realizing here I'm going to have to go back in and repaint all those little black lines that I did before, but that's quite okay. This whole front thing needs to be whitish. But I'm probably going to have to come back in and redefine this later once this paint dries up a little bit. So I am sensing that's picking up a lot of the paint from underneath it as well. And my fears come through. It does look basically like a conehead spaceship, so we're going to try to add some extra details off the top of this. And this is where we're going to kind of go a little off plan here. Need some structures off to the top, and it's going to have to be a little bit at this angle here, this way. I don't mind if it's a little gloppy on this, but I'm just going to pretend that there's sort of an antenna array of sorts up here, because I like putting those onto spaceships like this. And why would you not have such things? Communication arrays. There we go. Kind Kind of gives it something a little bit different off the top there. And likewise, I'll have a few coming up the bottom. Well, I'm getting dangerously close to the bottom of the board. There we go. Don't do that, Bert. There we go. Reasonably happy with where this is going. There we are. It's almost black. And again, just using the characteristics of this brush to my advantage to try to indicate scale. At this size, you probably would be able to visually detect straight lines, but not so much really. It would kind of be a and I'm just making up details as I go for these pieces here. Now we're starting to get in some of the spaceship-y stuff. Is that a term? Spaceship-y? Is that the actual proper term? Probably way to the top there. There we go. I'm just a sucker for this sort of medieval helmet look. I think that shows up in... That's probably why the Boba Fett character is so fun to me personally. It just has that medieval helmet going on. I think I'm going to need to mix up more of this paint. I did not mix up enough of it. It's quite alright. Payne's Gray and Raw Umber. I'm going to turn this a bit so I can get this guy back in. Alright. It's starting to sing a little bit there. Starting to be able to see what I was hoping for. All right, take just a second. There we go. Maybe a little bit darker than that. That mixed up too much water. It's going to run right off the page. Yeah, it's all good. Kind of wanted it so that I can get some detail in. And with this lighter blue-gray, we are going to have some fun with these guys. These spaces in here. Doing all my horizontals, and you can see it kind of starts to get in a hint of detail in this space. And the same thing in here. I'm going to do a little hint of some details as if there's some hardware in here that is being lit up from the outside. There we go. I don't want to go too crazy with this because I still want the bulk of the graphics there to be the darker components that are basically in shade here. But I wanted some cool tone details in some of these spots. I'm going to dance these around at pretty much just about all of them. Oop. Go. Get down in here in this thing. Since it's a cooler gray, a blue tone gray, these details will push into these shadow zones nicely. Instead of fighting too much. They're actually almost the same brightness as some of the front details in this brown tone, but they this will help define a little bit of the detail. It'll get you some spots, like in this shadow zone under this nose up here, there may be some detail lit by reflected light. And there we go, up onto this piece here. There we go. All right, getting back to it. I know this is a little bit repetitive since I've already gone over these white bits before, but it's dry enough now where I think I'm going to be able to start getting another layer of bright, just to sort of brighten up the highlights that I really want on the ship hull. There's far more details I want to do inside of some of these other zones, windows and so forth, but I definitely want this to be a little bit drier before I start tackling that. There we go. Okay, so now that we've had, yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with this. Now that we've had some drying of the paint here, I'm kind of going to go in and try to do some pushing and pulling and rendering some shapes here with the white over these, I don't know, you'd call them off brown, off tan areas, and help define the shapes a bit. There we go. Just sort of push, yes, indeed. And with each layer, I'm trying to add a little bit more detail so it looks like there's some functional things going on. There we go. One of the next steps I'm coming up to is adding in some more color detail because I think just having the windows be white is probably a little boring, so we probably won't do that. Even though I'll have a few. There we go. I kind of want a little bit more space down in here for some windows and things, so I'll add that. Boom. There we go. Give that a little bit more space. Ah, he said space. No pun intended. The end of my flat brush to give these little windows a little life. And I'm going to grab some yellow. So I can, what I like to do is come back in with a brighter color, or in this case, a yellow-orange, and it'll help. I'm just going to dance around some of these. It'll give them a little bit of a gradient. Gives them a little bit more interest, makes them look less like just a blotch of color. And so I'm basically finding all the red ones that I just put in that look more like windows, and I'm trying to give them some life with a little bit of a yellow. It's probably very hard to see at that distance, so my apologies. And while I have that color, since I have all this in here, this engine is kicking off all of this crazy red-orange glow, and so you're going to get some spillover onto other parts of the ship. Reflected light, if you will. So we're just going to add that in here too. I mean, because this thing would be giant flames, gigantic red, yellow flames coming in on this. So a lot of the stuff wouldn't be grays. It would be a wash in these orange tones. Thank you. And this also helps heighten the drama, because now we've got, instead of it just being black shapes out in there, you get some of this reddish-orange glow, and it kind of helps define the pieces a bit. So maybe there's some more hardware helping to control these crazy flames. There we go. This also is a good effect for working out exploding spaceships too. You can use this same effect. But again, thank you everybody so far for joining me this evening on this. It's been a lot of fun, and this was definitely and this was not a practice one. This was just I think I've got a general idea of where I want to go with this, and just ran with it. So yay. Go. I'm just using this red-orange in here to help offset some of the back end. Anything on the back side of this ship is going to be bathed in this, so and we're going to want to have some markings on this. So let's just see about. Way too much paint on this to do this. Really wanted it a nice, there we go, thin, nice, chiseled, edged red there. There we go. And the cool thing about markings like this too is it becomes sort of a great way to help define the shape without actually drawing contour lines. There we go. Company logo right across the front. Just want a couple of pieces down here that will kind of cover that up. I really don't want a lot of stars on top of the ship, so I'm just going to cover this up a bit, but I'm not going to go too crazy about covering it up because it's basically going to be a lighter color. And I'm getting my brush good and wet, loading it up with paint on here. My sort of off blue and white. And there we go. So I got this on there. We're just going to Spatter some stars in place here. The stars upon theirs. And these are going to be kind of our background stars. I'll paint in some hero stars as well. But you want the big star field, the millions of stars star field. Alrighty. Hero stars being the larger stars. And I'm not paying too much attention to whether or not these are perfectly round. It's funny, having seen some close-up stars from some of the other artists that I admire, they're just thrown on with brushes. So the effect will be pretty good there. There, that should do pretty good. Let's see what we got looking like here. Do a little bit of a pull this tape off. See if we can get a good effect going. There we go. Whoop. Alrighty. And it kind of gets a little chalky until it actually sets up. I'll be sure to get a good photo of this for everybody after the stream is over with. Oh, can't not sign the painting. Hang tight here, folks. And grab a little round brush for the painting signing. Actually gonna need some more, a little bit more fresh white. There we go. Awesome. And the exception of the little signature, I'm actually going to call this one good. There we go. I present to you Deep Space Cruise Ship a la John Berkey style. Just for fun. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and you'll be notified when I upload a new video. Also, catch my weekly stream over on Twitch every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Thank you.